Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode with Ralph. Hope you're fine, dear lovely IELTS candidates. And today we are going to cover one Task 1 academic writing question. And today's question is about diagram. Well, reporting process diagram is a little bit difficult for IELTS candidates because describing stages in the diagram can be a little bit challenging. But today you'll learn how to analyze data, how to group data, and at the end of this session you will see that that is pretty easy, a piece of cake really. So first let's take a look at our question and our diagram. The diagram describes the process of making recycled paper. As you can see on the picture, this is a kind of process diagram which describes how recycled paper is made. So first of all, let's take a look at our 4 paragraphs, what we are going to cover in our 4 paragraph here. So, the first paragraph is introduction, and in your introduction, you always tells the reader what the chart or the diagram is about. So you are going to write what you are going to describe as your report, all right? So you know that it is pretty easy to paraphrase the question, right? Changing the words using some synonym language, and that would be very easy for you. And in the next paragraph, which is our overview paragraph, this paragraph highlights the main trends or features without going into detail, right? So it is very important. So in describing the process diagram, you have to write the number of stages of the process of the diagram, right? And you can say, for example, it starts from this and this. And if there are main features that are of utmost importance, you should describe them. You should just tell the reader what are those main trends or features of this diagram, all right? Now, taking a look at this diagram, you can see that it consists of 4 stages, all right? And it starts from production of pulp and then ending with the formation of recycled paper rolls, all right? So this is the way that we write about our diagram here. Now, our 3rd and 4th paragraphs will be about our data. Now, what we are going to do here is to categorize this diagram into 2. In paragraph 3, we can write about the first 2 stages, right? And in paragraph 4, we should write about the 2 other stages that we have here. So making pulp and filtering should be analyzed in paragraph 3, and cleaning and recycled paper should be analyzed in paragraph 4. This is what we basically do in categorizing our data here, and the stages, of course. Now, one thing is very important in describing stages. There are some words that you have to know when you want to describe the stages of a process diagram. So when you want to start writing about the first stage, you can write these words: initially, to begin with, the process begins when, and at the beginning. So these are 4 words that you can use when you want to describe the beginning of a process diagram. Then if you are in the middle of the diagram and you want to use some phrases, some linking words, you can use these phrases when you want to talk about the middle of the diagram. For example, after this stage, after that, next, following this, at this point, subsequently, as soon as, just after that, soon after. All right, these are the words that you want to talk, what you use when you want to talk about the middle of the stage. Now, sometimes 2 things happen at the same time. So if you want to describe that, the same time, you can use these 4 phrases: meanwhile, simultaneously, at the same time, and as this is happening. All right, so when you want to talk about something, 2 things that are happening at the same time. Now, the ending of the process diagram, you have to use one of these words or phrases. Finally, lastly, the last stage is, the process ends when, and once this stage or step is completed. All right. Now, let's start writing our paragraph, our first paragraph, which is our introduction. So in the question, we have the diagram describes the process of making recycled paper. So we can change it to this one. The diagram describes the process, used to, all right, we change it to a clause here, used to produce recycled paper on a large scale basis. This is what I myself add here in order to make it a little bit different from the question. So this is our introduction part. That's it. You do not have to write more. We do not have any dates here. There are no trends here. You just describe what the diagram is about. That's it. What is being made in this diagram. Now, in our overview paragraph, now let's consider that there are 4 stages in which we have to mention how many stages are there in our overview paragraph. And you can say what is the beginning and the end of this diagram. Now, we can write something like this. Overall, there are 4 main stages. There are 4 main stages starting from the production of pulp and ending with the formation of recycled paper rolls. Overall, there are 4 main stages, starting from the production of pulp and ending with the formation of recycled paper rolls. That's it. You talked about how many stages are there in this process diagram, and what is the beginning and the end of this diagram. Now, before writing our 3rd and 4th paragraph, let's take a look at our diagram here. Let's see what is happening here. So first of all, used paper is put in the conveyor belt, all right, and it is put into a tank which water and chemicals are there, and it is mixed with water and chemicals, all right, and then it is rotated through this part which is unfiltered pulp, and they are put into another tank which is filtered pulp, right? They are changed into filtered pulp, and after that they are put into another tank which water and soap exists, all right? Then the air pump pressures the air, and the ink is emitted from the mixture here. And then after that, they are put into another tank, which is the recycled paper stage, which is the ending stage, all right? And clean pulp is rotated through heated rollers, and then water is extracted from this part, and recycled paper roll is made. So this is the overall process that recycled paper is made. Now, what we are going to do here is that in our 3rd paragraph, or our first body paragraph, we are going to talk about the first 2 stages, making pulp and filtering. We can start something like this. And something is important in writing our process diagram is that you have to use passive voice instead of using active, right? So passive voice is very important. You have to be well informed. You have to know well how to write passive sentences, all right? So this is what we are going to do here, and you will see that I'm going to write as many as passive voices, passive sentences as possible. To begin with, used paper is placed. This is passive voice. Is placed where? Onto a conveyor belt and sent, another passive, and sent into a tank, what happens in the tank? Where it is mixed with water and chemicals to break it into pulp. So this is our first stage, as you can see. And I've used so many passive sentences here. What happens after that? In the next step, the pulp is filtered. This is another passive sentence here, passive voice, is filtered in a perforated tank, and the impurities remain in the tank while the filtered pulp moves on to the next stage. As you can see in the second stage, those impurities are put at the end, and what is moved onto the next stage is a pure, let's say, material. Right? Now, what happens in the next stage is what we are going to cover in our next paragraph, right? This is the cleaning stage. So we start this paragraph with the phrase subsequently. Subsequently, comma, the pulp is washed clean. So washed clean with what? With water and soap, all right? In another tank. An air pump connected to this tank introduces air, which aids in the removal of ink. So as you can see in this, in the picture here, the air pump is connected to the tank, and the air, which is pressured into the tank, helps the ink to be removed. All right. So this is what I said here. So you have to talk about every single important data or, let's say, part of the process. So when you see that air pump is in the picture, you have to talk about it. What's the function of this air pump, right? So you have to analyze the function. And you can see in the picture that when there is an air pump and when ink is removed from this tank, you can analyze that, all right, this air pump helps the removal of ink, all right? So, which aids in the removal of ink. Now, what happens at the last stage? We can say in the concluding step, all right, or in the last stage. It's not different. In the concluding step, the clean and filtered pulp is sent through heated rollers. You can see in the photo here, in the picture here, heated rollers sent through, another passive voice here, sent through heated rollers, which press the ink-free pulp. So why do I use ink-free pulp? Because in the last stage we saw that the ink is removed. So what we have here is ink-free pulp. This is a way that I'm trying to exclude repeating the previous word. We had clean pulp, as you can see, the clean and filtered pulp. Now here, what I'm trying to say is ink-free pulp instead of repeating the word clean, all right? To expel any excess water and produce the final rolls of recycled paper. And you have to, again, mention the water here. At the last stage, you will see that the water is expelled here. So you have to say this one too, because it is important. So once the water is expelled, so once the water is removed, so these clean pulps are made into recycled paper rolls. So that's it. As you can see, there are some very important things that you have to consider while when you want to analyze a process diagram. The first one is that you have to know how to write passive sentences, because 80% of your sentences you have to be in passive voice, right? And then you have to know the words that describe the stages, as we worked in the beginning of this session, right? We worked on some phrases that when you want to talk about the first stage, you have to use these words, the second, the middle, the end of the stage, or when two things happen at the same time. So these are phrases that are very important. And the third important thing is to group data, to categorize data. So many times, because there are some stages, for example, 4 or 5 stages, so many times IELTS candidates categorize the 2 paragraphs by talking about the first 2 stages in the first body paragraph and the remaining stages in the second body paragraph. So that is good. That is good way. But there are also some diagrams that are a little bit challenging, in which we will describe later in our upcoming videos. And in those videos, I will talk about another way to categorize data in process diagrams. So that's for it today. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson and has been really helpful. If you have any questions, you can simply ask in comments and I will kindly answer all your comments. Until next time, enjoy your time, stay tuned, and goodbye.